Bring the lights down low, it's time to show. Lights, camera, you know what we mean. Behold the magic of the silver screen. Some movies rock, some movies shock. They're powerful, alright. We cover them all on your favorite part. So many movies we can choose. Even when you win, you lose. Life moves pretty fast. Some will fizzle and some movies last. I understood there would be no math. It's the 30-something movie podcast. Be excellent to each other. Peace out and word to your mother. They're from the best decades. Movie magic that never fades. Lightsabers clash, phasers set to stun. Action packed from dusk till dawn. We have deep thoughts and questions free. Come share our love of the movies we see. Life moves pretty fast. Some will fizzle and some movies last. I understood there would be no math. It's the 30-something movie podcast.
Guys, I've been staring at this magic eye picture for hours, and I still can't figure out what it is.
Well,
Hey, look at that. It's a sailboat.
When am I going to get to see this thing?
just need to
Why, God, why?
roll a little something, and you'll be fine.
There you go.
Smoochy boochies.
Jay, is that you? Well, the four of us are here, Pat, Bo, John, and Silent Bob. So we are happy to be here. We're happy to be talking Mallrats this time around. So, Patrick, how are you doing?
Yay! I'm good. I'm excited. This is a fun movie. I like Kevin Smith movies, so this will be a good time. It's be a good
Bo,
time.
How are you doing? How are you, Bo?
Oh, I'm good.
Excellent. All right. As we said, this one is Mallrats, so we're probably not going to waste too much time here and jump right on into this. Very quickly, though, we are spoiling this movie like crazy, and probably other Kevin Smith movies as we talk through this thing, so this is pretty much your only warning. Just be warned. If you haven't watched Mallrats, do yourself a favor, go watch it. One interesting thing before we jump into this here, the version that we watched was the extended version, which I have never seen before, so I was excited to get to see the kind of the extra bonus scenes that had been added back into it.
Oh, that's funny. So it's been so long since I've seen the other version that I forgot what the old opening was.
Really? I don't think it's been a while since I've seen the movie, and I don't know that I remember what the original opening was either.
Okay.
I feel like the original opening was it them talking comic books? I have to go back and look. It's been a while since I've watched it, and now having watched this version, I'm like, yeah, what was the original? But I like this one. Like this one, it brought in like more running jokes about the musket got caught in my girlfriend's hair. This whole like running gag that just kept coming back, and then it made sense because
and you get a little more Michael Rooker, which is always fun.
You get a lot more Michael Rooker.
Yeah. Including his badonkadonk, if you will.
Huh?
We are going to have to publish a 30-something movie podcast, like glossary.
Translation guide?
Because, translation guide. Sort of like they did in the original Dune, like back in the day. Because I think, and it also starts with a B, so badonkadonk. Unless you're using the Latin alphabet, when it's badonkadonk starts with an I. I'm not sure.
Doesn't everything start with an I?
Everything in the Latin alphabet starts with an I. Yeah.
Right. That's Indiana Jones taught me that. I don't understand.
Didn't Tolkien also have like a dictionary for the Elvish and the other stuff? Okay, so we'll be in good company if we choose to do that. So, but yes, you did get the opportunity to see Michael and his Rooker in this movie. So,
oh boy,
yeah, in the extended version. So that's of the scenes that were added back in. But actually, even before we get into talking about the movie, that was one of the things I liked about this one was getting to see the extended stuff with everything kind of built back into it. I felt like I was getting more to the characters, and I got a lot to the characters watching it, the original version of it, the theatrical, but there was a lot of stuff added back into it, and I thought it only helped. Like there wasn't anything that got added in that I was like, yeah, well, I would have maybe left that out.
Yeah,
But yeah,
I
thought
agree.
it was great.
Well, part of the trivia, and John, you may already have this, but in the original cut of this is one of the only Kevin Smith movies that he didn't do the edit on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he went back, and that's why the extended cut exists, because he went back and did the extended cut edit.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting that he did the one movie, then he kind of did this one a little more traditional style where he didn't do the edit, and then after that he was like, no,
Yeah.
I will be editing the rest. Thank you very much.
I will be George Lucasing the heck out of this.
Yeah, exactly right. Like, if it's good enough for Lucas, it's good enough for me.
Interesting.
Which gets really weird when they end up having Jar Jar and chasing Amy. But you know.
Yeah, but you do what you got to do, and
Yeah.
you make the edits you need to make.
And this movie, it was his second movie, right? Because Clerks came out. Clerks
But-
had the feel.
This technically takes place, is it the day before Clerks in universe? Isn't that the way it's supposed to be?
I believe so. Yes, because you have that crossover story of the girl dying in the swimming pool.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Because it's her funeral. In the extended scenes, the cartoon scenes in the extended version of Clerks were her funeral, weren't they?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, because Clerks definitely had the feel of like an indie movie, whereas this one, and I think you already said it, this one seems to be, I would say a lot more mainstream because of the humor and the characters and all that kind of stuff. But this one seemed, just the flow of it, the way it was shot, that it was in color. This one just seemed to have more mainstream vibe to it.
Yeah. Well, and what's really great about all that is when you think about it, it's so much like an Indiana Jones, because you've got the first movie is actually chronologically the second movie,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you've also got a situation where you could say that there's a young girl who maybe ends up with an older guy, and she was a child, and he knew that it was wrong, but okay, I might leave it at that.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to go any farther, but you could, I suppose.
Jeff is never going to come back on the show again if he hears this. You realize that we're losing a co-host as you speak. You realize that.
But are we gaining a friend? I don't know.
I don't know, man. Jeff,
we
we love you. Just
love you,
please
Jeff.
don't hate us.
Yeah, don't hurt Pat for having mentioned that, Jeff.
Well, no, wait a minute.
Hey, what? So anyway, a lot of similarities between Indiana Jones.
Pat didn't mention anything.
I don't know. The way this podcast is going to get edited, I'm sure you probably did.
Yeah.
Because much like Kevin Smith, I am going to edit this because I want to make sure it's done right.
Yes.
Make sure you visit our website, 30podcast.com. You can leave a voicemail, a rating. You can become a co-executive producer over there on Patreon. And I believe I had shared with you guys, I wanted to mention on here real fast, we had a really nice review left for us on Apple Podcast, and it was from Brad Moore, who I got a chance to meet a little bit earlier last year. And he gave us a 5-star review and said, being a former projectionist at a movie theater, which is a great job to have. I'll speak from experience there, too. From the late
Awesome.
80s to the early 90s, this is a great podcast for me. John and his crew do a fantastic job of dissecting the ins and outs of 30-year-old films. Having the pleasure of meeting John personally only adds to my enjoyment of this podcast. If you enjoy the movies from your past, then I highly recommend checking out the 30-something movie podcast. So thanks, Brad.
Yeah. Thanks, man. That's really
Thanks.
kind.
Very, very kind. So we appreciate that. Before we jump into Mallrats, I think we've got to, this is our first episode of Teen Month. So I think we got to hop in the DeLorean, head back and see what was going on in March of 1995.
When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious shit.
All right. In The more things change, the more they stay the same news. On March 1st, Prime Minister of Israel and PLO Chairman Yasser Arafat met in Cairo to discuss the next stage of Israeli-Palestinian negotiations.
Okay.
So history continues to repeat itself, I suppose.
Indeed.
On March 2nd, 1995, Yahoo was founded by Stanford University graduate students. I think Yahoo was probably almost everybody's, maybe not first search engine.
No, because you had Alta Vista and
Lycos was probably around before that.
Lycos,
Ask Jeeves,
yeah.
I remember Alta Vista. I remember a lot of Yahoo, but I remember starting with Alta Vista.
Ask Jeeves.
Ask Jeeves was another one, yeah. So Yahoo is one of the. I use those others, but that Yahoo was probably one of the first ones I started using exclusively. Like when it came out, it was like, oh yeah, you're gonna. Before anything was Googled, you Yahooed it.
Yeah, and I feel like that was the first search engine that was, to some people, the internet.
Right.
Like how some people, their homepage is Google, and they literally Google Google.com, or they literally Google mybank.com instead of going to the URL bar. Like they do it in search.
Yeah.
And I think Yahoo might have been the first time that happened.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And I was also going to say is that what I liked about Yahoo was I really liked because you could click on the different categories and everything like that, and you could just read news. And I remember doing that a lot when I was in college because I like to be a news junkie and all that. And I remember just clicking like, wow, I can look at local news. I can look at world news. I can look at, and then I heard that the company selected what news things made it to the top, and that became problematic. But I really, that was one of the things I remember about Yahoo is it was fun to be able to like read news stories, like I could, without having like, I can't subscribe to newspapers from around the world. I can't sit and watch CNN like 24 hours a day. So that was kind of fun with that whole Yahoo thing.
Yeah. Have you guys ever gone to oldweb.today?
No.
Okay.
But I've played around in the Wayback Machine a lot.
Okay. All right. So this is a fun site. It is kind of this emulator for old school browsers and old school websites.
Really?
So I'm on it right now, oldweb.today, and I've told it that let's see, what did I used to use kind of back in the day? I own Netscape Navigator. I could have used that one.
Netscape Navigator.
Internet Explorer 4. So you pick your browser, and then you tell it what website you want to go to, and what it does is it emulates what that old website would have looked like. So I am currently looking at what the Yahoo webpage would have looked like back in the day, and I believe I'm looking at 1996 right now. Yeah, so I'm looking at this is like all text based. It's basically just a bullet point list of text, and I can go down and look at arts, business and economy, computers and internet, education, government, health, news. Yeah, so I have fun every once in a while just nerding out and checking out this website. But yeah, if anybody wants to see what old school Yahoo would have looked like back in the day, head over to oldweb.today. It's kind of a fun little, if you're a nerd and you like history, nerdy things like that, then, or if maybe
that's really cool.
If you want to see if your Angel Fire site still exists.
Oh, God.
I don't think anybody wants my Angel Fire site to still exist. I have a feeling it had something to do with like Star Wars fan fiction.
Sounds about right.
Which nobody got time for that.
No, trust me.
Speaking of things that should be dead and gone, deaths on March 31st, Selena, the American singer, was murdered by the president of her fan club.
Oh.
So.
Yeah, folks. Maybe you don't really need a fan club.
No. That's why I don't have one.
That's why.
Yes.
Knew there had to be a reason.
That's absolutely the reason. Also busy working on my Jedi mind tricks and trying to move stuff with my mind.
Sure.
March 5th, Michael Jordan returns to the NBA after a 17-month retirement.
Oh, wow. Wasn't that exciting?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I remember we were there for one of the preseason games the year that he was back, and I feel like it was a preseason game, and he was still wearing the 45 jersey.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he played much the game that we went to. He didn't play for very long, but It was good to see him back.
Yeah.
March 19th, the Toronto Raptors were awarded an NBA expansion franchise.
Okay.
Top books were The Bridges of Madison County by Robert James Waller. Still, I think it has been and will be for several months. Top movies were Tommy Boy and Outbreak for March of 1995. And the top song for the entire month was Take a Bow by Madonna. So jumping on into our trivia pursuits for this movie, it came out on October 20th, 1995, rated R, with a runtime of 1 hour and 34 minutes. Kevin Smith was the director and the writer for this one. He also did Clerks, Chasing Amy, a bunch of other movies. Producers were Sean Daniel, James Jacks, and Scott Mosier. Daniel did The Mummy and Dazed and Confused. Jacks did The Mummy and Raising Arizona, and Scott Mosier did Clerks and Chasing Amy. Composer was Ira Newborn, who did The Naked Gun TV show and 16 Candles. Cinematographer was David Klein, who did Clerks and Red State. Editor was Paul Dixon. He did Chasing Amy and Good Will Hunting. This was done by View Askew Productions, Gramercy Pictures, Alphaville Films. The budget was $6.1 million. The box office, $2.1 million. So box office-wise, did not make a whole lot of money there. Didn't make back its budget, we'll put it that way. Cinema Score had not for this one, did not have a score, and Flickmetrics gives it a 63%. Jason Lee played Brody Bruce. He was in Almost Famous and My Name is Earl. Jeremy London played T.S. Quint. He was in Party of Five and Seventh Heaven. Shannon Doherty, who I believe passed in 2024, just last year, played Renee Mosier. She was
Brenda?
Brenda?
That's so good.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Beverly Hills 90210 and Heathers. Claire Forlani played Brandy Svenning. She was in Meet Joe Black and The Rock. Hold on just 1 second. Let me do this again. Claire Forlani.
Dreamweaver. I believe you can get me through the night.
Played Brandy Svenning. She was in Meet Joe Black and The Rock. Ben Affleck. Does anybody want me to play that one for Ben Affleck too? Bo, do you want that one?
No, I think we're okay.
Good. Okay. Why are you trying to say something, Bo?
No, I just think we're.
Oh, okay. He was Shannon Hamilton. He was in Good Will Hunting and Argo. Joey Lauren Adams was Gwen Turner. She was in Chasing Amy and Dazed and Confused. Michael and his Rooker, were Jared Svenning. He was in Guardians of the Galaxy and The Walking Dead. Jason Mewes played Jay. He was in Clerks and Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. Kevin Smith was Silent Bob. He was in Clerks and Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. Priscilla Barnes was Miss Ivana. She was in Three's Company. The irony. And License to Kill. Come and knock on my door. Ethan Suplee played Willem. He was in Remember the Titans and My Name is Earl. And Stan Lee, who passed in 2018, played himself. He was in Spider-Man Homecoming and Avengers Endgame. A couple of trivia things real fast. Mallrats was originally intended to be set at a beach, but Kevin Smith changed the location to a mall because of budget constraints and wanting a more controlled filming environment. The other interesting thing about this one is, although it's set in New Jersey, the movie was filmed at the Eden Prairie Mall in Minnesota due to lower production costs. Eden Prairie Mall, where Mallrats is set, is the same mall used for exterior shots in the movie Empire Records, although Empire Records was filmed a little bit later, and that one we will be covering at the end of this month.
Yay.
Woohoo!
Jason Lee, who plays Brody, initially auditioned for the role of T.S., but Kevin Smith felt that Lee was better suited for the more energetic and verbose character of Brody, so he gave him that part instead. And then Mallrats, this one's pretty evident from the fact that we all know it, we all love it. It was not a box office success upon its release, but it did gain a cult following on home video and repeat airings on TV. So that is probably one of the reasons that we all got a chance to see it, because I doubt we saw it in the theater. Quick synopsis for this one. In the bustling corridors of a New Jersey mall, best friends Brody and T.S. face heartbreak and hijinks. With ex-girlfriends Renee and Brandy moving on, the duo enlist the unpredictable Jay and Silent Bob to win them back. Amidst scheming and shenanigans, love and laughter collide in a retail adventure like no other. One little trivia thing that I did not pop in here that I'm going to is one of the things that Kevin Smith did for this one was he was showing off his love for Jaws, not just because he was going to propose to Brandy at Universal Studios when Jaws popped out of the water, but if you look at the names of the characters, you have Brody Bruce, and Quint.
Quint.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of little nods there to Jaws.
Yeah, because Bruce was the name of the shark,
It was
right?
the shark, yeah, the mechanical shark they used.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, major moments for this one. 10 major moments. We break it down that way so you don't have to. Starting off, this is the alternate opening. So if you have not seen the extended version, that is the version that we watched this time around, and I really enjoyed it. I liked having the new scenes in there, and the new opening I thought was hilarious, and I thought it really added a lot to the characters and some of their motivations and some of the ways that they're acting later on. I really enjoyed it. So in this alternate opening, T.S. attends a formal governor's ball hosted by Brandy's father, Mr. Svenning. Dressed as a colonial musket man for a themed performance, he accidentally gets his musket tangled in Brandy's hair and then misfires a shot at the governor. This humiliates Svenning, costs him a major promotion, and cements his hatred for T.S. later in the movie. Then later, Brandy breaks up with T.S., insisting their relationship is doomed. In the theatrical cut, the breakup is tied to the death of a game show contestant, and then she has to cover for him, and he's upset because they were supposed to go to Florida, and he was going to propose to her. But in either version, T.S. is left heartbroken and turns to his best friend, Brody. Meanwhile, Brody, who has also been dumped by his girlfriend, Renee, because of his laziness and obsession with video games and not wanting to introduce her to his mom, because he's just not going anywhere and not growing up, she dumped him and left him a scathing letter. Seeking comfort, the two head to their usual refuge, the mall. So T.S. and Brody are headed to the mall because that's what you need in a time like this. When all else fails, go to the mall.
Mm-hmm.
Let's all go to the mall.
Let's all go to the mall. Hey, everybody. I love Robin Sparkles. While at the mall, T.S. and Brody learn that Truth or Date, the dating show that Mr. Svenning is running, is being filmed there, and they know that Brandy is going to be the contestant on the show. So they see an opportunity to possibly disrupt the show and win her back. So they enlist their slacker friends, Jay and Silent Bob, who just happen to be there torturing kittens, to help sabotage the set. Jay and Silent Bob devise an elaborate and ridiculous plan to destroy the show's stage, but each attempt hilariously backfires. Meanwhile, their friend Willem spends the day frustratingly trying to see a hidden image in the Magic Eye poster. I'm going to ask you guys real quick about this. I really connected with this movie on a very deep level because I can't see the pictures in those Magic Eye things.
I can every once in a while, but not on a regular basis. And it maybe not to the level of Willem, but it has frustrated me in the past.
Okay. Willem helped me feel seen in this movie, well, as the kids say nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
Pat, do you have the gift of being able to see the Magic Eye images?
I typically can't. We had a book of those, and I remember not being able to see. Like, I kind of see glimpses of it, and it was just like, no.
I can find Waldo like nobody's business, but the Magic Eye things,
Magic Eye thing I struggled with. I didn't.
Because I would have people tell me, and then I think people were just trying to trick me. Some people were like, well, start with your eyes crossed really close and then pull the book away from it. I'm like, I think you're just trying to get me to look stupid.
Yeah. Yep.
So, yeah, I never had. I had some friends that had like Magic Eye posters up in their room and stuff like that. And I'm like, I would never put that up in my room because I don't even know what it is. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it was not one of my favorites of the 90s.
Hard to agree.
All right, well, Brody discovers that Renee is now dating Shannon Hamilton, a smug clothing store manager from Fashionable Mail, who despises Brody for his lack of a shopping agenda. Brody confronts Renee, and in the heat of the moment, they enjoy each other's company in the elevator. Love in an elevator, I suppose you could call it.
One of my favorite Aerosmith songs right there, baby.
Maybe missed opportunity not to have like a Muzak version of that playing in the elevator.
Right?
But I don't know, maybe the royalties for that.
Licensing and such.
Yeah, maybe. After Brody is beaten up by Shannon, Jay and Silent Bob mistakenly believe that the mall's Easter Bunny is responsible, and they retaliate, attacking the costumed character in front of a bunch of horrified children. Mr. Svenning, Brandy's controlling father, frames T.S. and Brody for drug possession, leading to their arrest. Jay and Silent Bob rescue them, and the duo seeks refuge at a flea market where they meet, or what do they call it? The dirt mall?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is the one time where I did not necessarily feel seen because I love a good flea market. But if I have to think back to it, I'm not sure if like 16-year-old me would have loved a flea market.
Yeah, I don't think, but Brody liked he wasn't down on it. He liked it.
Yeah, I kind of feel like in a sense I would have been a bit like a Brody in that I grew up with grandparents that constantly took us to flea markets and garage sales and all kinds of stuff like that. So sifting through other people's junk to find a treasure was kind of something I grew up on.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at this scene and I'm going, that looks like a really cool flea market.
Mm-hmm.
I want to go to that flea market. Well,
30 podcast road trip.
30 podcast road trip. There is a really fun, pretty good sized flea market when my wife and I were in Boston. I got to look up and see exactly where that was, but I believe we stopped there because there were tornadoes coming through. Or something, and we're like, well, let's not continue on our drive to Rhode Island. Let's stop here for a bit, and ended up being a really, really cool flea market, kind of in the middle of Massachusetts.
Nice.
Yeah.
So yes, if you guys want to go on a road trip, we can go. So anyway, while they're there, they seek refuge at a flea market where they meet a topless fortune teller, Miss Ivana. Works every time.
Too good.
She gives them cryptic relationship advice, inspiring them to take action. But T.S. is really inspired by this and really and truly, what's funny in that whole scene is how Brody goes into this. He's like, yeah, man, we got to do this. Like she'll be able to tell you your fortune. And then the moment she takes her top off, then all of a sudden, and then she starts saying her prognostications, and all of a sudden T.S. is like, oh my God, you're absolutely right. It completely flips because then Brody's like, I don't want to be here anymore.
Yeah,
I don't want to do this. And TS is like, no. You got to tell me more about this because this is good stuff. Like I have to know. How can I win my girlfriend back to? That whole scene is hilarious.
It is very funny.
How are you not seeing this?
I like that anytime you get characters like flipping who their personas are. I like that.
Yeah.
When they do that, I suppose comedy writing is where I seem to notice it. But yeah, that's really cool whenever it's just like you're going one way and then suddenly it just completely flips.
Yeah.
And yes, I agree. That was a fun scene and I like seeing that.
Yeah. So we're back at the mall. Brody has a chance encounter with Marvel legend Stan Lee, who shares personal and slightly exaggerated stories of lost love to encourage Brody to pursue Renee. Meanwhile, TS and Jay hatch a plan to get two of the game show contestants too stoned to compete, allowing TS and Brody to take their places. On Truth or Date, Brandy quickly recognizes the voices of Brody and TS, leading to a heated on-air confrontation. Brody takes over, explaining how much TS has been pining for Brandy all day. Moved by his words, Brandy accepts TS's live proposal. Just as the police arrive to arrest Brody and T.S., Silent Bob exposes a sex tape revealing Shannon's illegal relationship with Trisha, leading to his arrest. In the epilogue, T.S. and Brandy marry at Universal Studios. Brody becomes the host of The Tonight Show. Renee joins him as the band leader, and Willem finally sees the sailboat. Meanwhile, Jay and Silent Bob adopt an orangutan named Suzanne, ensuring that their next adventure is going to be even weirder. In the extended version, we also find out that Mr. Svenning did get to work in a production studio as a janitor, and we find out that Shannon went to prison and made new friends.
In an uncomfortable place.
You mean like the back of a Volkswagen?
Indeed.
Thank you. That's the synopsis. Let's. I don't want to say this. I don't want to follow that up with. Let's just look at some deep thoughts.
Let's go a little deeper.
Thank you, sir. May I have another?
Anyway. Nope, that's the wrong sound.
Whoa, wait a minute. Hang on.
I thought earlier you were going to
And
drop
now-
the Colomini from Con Air, and you didn't. So
Which one? This one?
Beautiful. Sunsets are beautiful. Newborn babies are beautiful. This is spectacular.
that one.
That one? Okay. Well, here. Let's go back to the whole scene where they go to the flea market.
Beautiful. Sunsets are beautiful. Newborn babies are beautiful. This is spectacular.
There you go.
That was when I thought you were going to use it. And You
Okay,
didn't. I was
should've-
surprised.
I'm sorry, I let you down.
So not to like completely derail the podcast. And now,
That's okay. I've failed the city. That's the end of the 30-something podcast.
Bring the lights down low, it's time to show. Lights, camera, you.
Well, first, let's go a little deeper.
And now, Deep Thoughts.
I have an opinion on this matter.
Don't mince words, Bones. What do you really think?
I like it a lot. Wow. It's very deep. Thank you.
That's what Shannon said. So, my first exposure to this movie is that I didn't see it in the theater. I don't remember when I saw it. I probably saw it at somebody's house, or I found it at the library, or I don't know, rented it from the video store or something. I don't remember the first time seeing this. It would have been maybe a couple years after it came out. But this was my first Kevin Smith movie. So no matter how we put the rankings in of Kevin Smith movies, this one, I'm trying to remember when we did Clerks, if I mentioned this as well, but I feel like this one's probably going to come on top for me because it's the first one I ever saw. And so I know some people don't like this one as much as Clerks, and I get it, that's fine, but this was my gateway into the rest of Kevin Smith. So this one for me, again, don't remember when I saw it, would have been maybe a few years, because I want to say I saw Clerks either late high school or early college. So this one probably would have been about the same, maybe late high school. Incidentally, this was also my gateway into Weezer because of the song at the end of the movie. I was like, oh, I like this song. And then I went to go find that song and went to go find more songs. And it's my gateway into both Kevin Smith and Weezer. Do you guys recall the first time you saw this one?
My first time, I think I saw these in college.
Okay.
I had friends that really, really liked Clerks and had probably seen Mallrats. But I think thinking of the years, for the majority of for the first half of high school, all there was Clerks. And that was still underground enough, or indie enough that only a few of my friends would have really seen it, and they would just quote it all the time. And so I felt like I knew the movie even though I hadn't seen it. And then I finally got to college. And then I can't remember what my gateway in was. And this might sound kind of crazy. When did Chasing Amy come out? Because I want to say that we were all at a party. What was that?
It was 97, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I almost wonder if Chasing Amy was my first Kevin Smith movie.
That wouldn't surprise me.
And I think we all watched that, and then I think it was one of those things where I was just like, yeah, I've never seen it. And they're like, wait, you've never seen Clerks or Mallrats? And I'm like, no. And then I just said, well, I had these friends that, oh, you got to sit down and watch it. So I think then we went from Chasing Amy back, and then it was Clerks and Mallrats, and that was kind of the gateway in. Well, actually, no, that wouldn't be defined as a gateway. That was my way in. That was my path.
Yeah.
Into the Kevin Smith movies. But yeah, I would have seen this early.
I was thinking too, how far did I get into Kevin Smith movies before I kind of stepped out for a bit? And I was looking at the list of the movies and when they came out. Of course, Clerks was his first one, Mallrats is the second one, Chasing Amy was 97, Dogma, which I loved, was 99.
Yes.
Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back was 2001. Yes. Jersey Girl was 2004. And then, you know what? I want to say kind of at that point, I don't know. I'm trying to remember if I've ever actually seen Clerks 2.
Oh, wow.
I feel like I've seen it, but kind of at that, I'm looking at the list, and I'm like, once we hit 2006 and Clerks 2, because you got Clerks 2, and then 2 years later, it's almost every 2 years. Got Clerks 2, then we've got Zach and Miri Make a Porno, which I have seen that one. I don't think I've seen Cop Out. I don't think I've seen Red State. I have not seen Tusk. I unfortunately watched Yoga Hosers. It was awful.
I haven't seen that one, but it sounds pretty rough.
Oh, I am convinced the only reason that Yoga Hosers exists is because Kevin Smith and Johnny Depp wanted both of their daughters to be leads in a movie together.
Oh, that makes sense.
Otherwise, it's an awful movie.
Well, they were in another one together, though, weren't they?
Were they? I won't watch that one either.
Oh, no. You know what? They weren't technically leads, I guess. They were both in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, weren't they? No, the other one.
A Reboot?
Bingo.
Oh, I haven't seen that one either. So
they were both in Reboot.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't seen Jay and Silent Bob reboot. I haven't seen Clerks 3. And
I haven't seen 3 yet.
yeah. And there's one from 2024 called the 4:30 movie. I haven't seen that one either.
I haven't seen 4:30 movie, although I heard a lot of good things about it.
Okay.
You know what? I might have seen Clerks 3. I think my brother and I might have run out to the theater one day to see that one.
Really? Okay. It's not that I don't want to see these. I think after Jersey Girl is about where I dropped off. And I can see that that was right about the time that I was starting. We just moved back up here. I was starting the teaching job. And then right after that, we started having kids. And so there were a lot fewer movies being watched kind of during that year. And so, yeah, I just kind of think I could just kind of fell off after Jersey Girl.
Yeah, I've seen. It's funny, all the ones that you mentioned, like up through Dogma, I saw all of those.
Yeah.
And then after, well, I'm sorry, and Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back.
Okay, yeah.
Really liked Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. Like that one gets the most constant rewatch. That one and Clerks, I think, get the most, well, and Dogma. Anyways, so after that, I kind of fell off. And then I jumped back in and I saw Reboot. And then I saw Clerks 2 and Clerks 3. But all the other ones, I really know very little about. So I should probably get back into them. It sounds like from what you were saying, there's some that you enjoyed better than others, but that's kind of the ones that I've seen. Is basically after Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, I just saw any of the sequels or reboots or what have you.
So let me ask you what probably amounts to a stupid question. What do you love best about Mallrats? Like, what's your favorite? If you had to pick one thing, what's your favorite thing about this movie? And it could be anything. It could be the soundtrack. It could be the
Jason
characters.
Lee.
It could be Jason Lee. Okay. Yeah, he's hilarious in this.
He really is. And it's so much so, I forgot so much of this movie. Because we were taught the first time I'd seen it was in high school.
Yeah.
And until this rewatch, and I think it might have something to do with the extra scenes. Until this rewatch, I would not have put this in my top 3 Kevin Smith movies.
Okay. Second Suitor, Pat. What would you say is your?
I am not Suitor number 2. That doesn't sound right. I'll be honest with you. I really like the dialogue and the side conversations and just like the way the characters interact. And I feel like I might have said this at when we did Clerks. This is like, these are people that I feel like I grew up with in high school and then going into college. Like, I feel like this is how we all talk to each other. You know what I'm saying? Like, we didn't get into the cool adventures, but I mean, like, right down to.
I mean, you
just
never
like
flew across the mall on a.
I didn't, but I mean, like, just the movie quotes. I dug that. You know, when he's like, "Where do you get these wonderful?" Like, all of that.
Right.
And I'm just repeating myself, so I should stop. But I'll just say it one more time, just for fun. I feel like in watching this, I feel like I knew these people. Maybe they wouldn't get outraged about the same kinds of things or break up for stupid reasons and all that, or maybe they would. But just the way people would talk or interact, and I think like when they're talking to the girl that's doing the research, and they're just like, "Really? And your parents are okay with this?" "Oh yeah, they're totally on board." Okay. And I mean, or just the way the conversations go, they kind of loop. The female characters aren't weak, right? Like, they give back to the guys as good as they get.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm not speaking from a female's perspective, so I'm very open. If I've got that wrong or reversed or whatever, just let me know. But I just really, really like the dialogue and how it flows. And dare I say, I like the way Kevin Smith writes his dialogue almost as much as Quentin Tarantino writes his. It just flows, and it's fun to listen to.
I will say this one probably a little bit better than Clerks. But I do have, even as much as I love Kevin Smith's movies, I do have a bit of an issue with the way some of the dialogue is delivered. And that's
okay.
And I'm going to, hopefully my daughter can't hear me because I'm going to say something that she probably wouldn't appreciate very much, is she has been doing a pretty constant rewatch for the last, I don't know, several months of Gilmore Girls.
Okay.
Mm.
And I feel the same way about when I walk through the room and I'm listening to whenever characters in Gilmore Girls have a heated conversation or they get excited about something, it starts to sound like they're reading off of, this guy reads off a card. It starts to sound like they're reading off a cue card because they're talking fast. They're trying to get information out. It sounds like they're trying to fit 10 pounds of dialogue in a 5-pound bag, and they are rushing through, and it starts to sound a little stilted. And except for Jason Lee and a few other people in this movie, I do feel like sometimes when TS is talking, it sounds like he is trying to get Kevin Smith's dialogue out of his mouth so fast that he sounds like he's reading off of a cue card.
Mm.
And so as much as I love Kevin Smith movies, I do think Clerks and Mallrats suffer from that. I'm trying to remember. It's been a long time since I've watched Chasing Amy and Dogma and some of those others. I watched them a bunch when they first came out, but I'm trying to remember. I might have to go back and rewatch those too. But I feel like these first couple of movies, it kind of suffered from that kind of delivery of dialogue. Like maybe he had written, I agree with you, like these kind of conversations, exactly the kind of stupid conversations you'd have in the comic book store or that you'd have with your friends on the bus or somewhere in the lunchroom at school or whatever. All those dumb hypothetical, what if Superman did this? And, that kind of stuff. But my only problem, I think, with this movie, and I probably mentioned this when we talked about Clerks too, is that delivery of the dialogue, and that it's very different from. I try to think of when that's done well, and I feel like a West Wing, I feel like an Aaron Sorkin does that well, where you're talking fast and you're trying to get a lot of information out in a short amount of time. I feel like it's done well in those situations, but in Clerks and Mallrats, there's still some moments where I'm like, ugh, man, if it didn't sound like you were reading something, it'd be better. Like I get it, and I get that you've got some high quality dialogue to get out here, but maybe at the risk of sounding like the Emperor in Amadeus, maybe just trim a few lines here or there, and it'll be fine. There are only so many lines of dialogue the human ear can hear over the course of one evening.
Which few did you have in mind, Majesty?
So that's probably my only criticism of this. Otherwise, I love this movie. I love everything else about this movie. It's the whole tone, the sense of humor, the situations everybody gets into.
Yeah. I really like Jay and Silent Bob.
Oh, yeah. And you get much more of them in this one than you did in Clerks.
Right.
I don't know if you guys happen to see in the trivia, they originally were going to replace, did you see who they were originally going to replace Jason Mewes with for Jay?
Yeah. Seth Green.
Would have been a very different Jay.
Was that because Jay struggled with addiction and all that? And was that kind of getting in the way, or?
No, I don't
know. It doesn't say in the trivia, but knowing what we know now, it makes you wonder. Because even in the trivia, it says there's an implication that they had Seth Green on speed dial, like if something was to go wrong and they needed him to fill in.
Yeah,
which is odd. But
one of the sequels, I want to say that Kevin Smith, if I got the story right, Kevin Smith offered the part to Jay, but said you got to get clean.
Yeah, I think that was Strike Back, right?
Was that what it was? Okay.
I think.
Well, and I don't know. I know he's been in the sequels and the stuff coming down the stretch here. So here's hoping that he was able to get clean and stay clean and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Bo, what was the stuff that you liked in this movie?
Just like, if I had to pick the one thing, it was Jason Lee and his I think, to John's point, Jason Lee delivers that language really well. Mm-hmm. Like, he's well suited to that pacing and that style. And I think that helps. Yeah, I love it all. There's just so much good stuff in here. You can never go wrong with Jay and Silent Bob when they're flying through the air, smashing their head through changing rooms. It's insane, when Silent Bob's using the Force to move a VHS tape. When you've got an impassioned speech by Stan Lee about love, how do you lose here? Is
Right.
what I'm trying to say.
Right.
Yeah.
To keep the show family friendly, fly, fat boy, fly.
Right.
I will say, having grown up watching horror movies at an age much younger than I probably should have, there are very few things that, as I'm watching a movie, I take that back. Now that I'm getting a little bit older, there are some things in some movies that I will actually turn away from if it's too gross.
Mm-hmm.
I've kind of reached a point. I think I've swung the pendulum back the other way. And if I'm watching
I know where you're going.
a body horror movie, you know where I'm going with this?
I know where you're going with this.
Pat, would you like a chocolate pretzel?
No.
No.
That scene
No.
is so rough,
If any,
man.
by the way, if any of you guys ever offer me a chocolate pretzel, the answer's gonna be no.
No.
Yeah.
No. God,
Just that whole scene is just so cringe. I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is awful.
And the extended version where they have a lot more time with the close up and the I'm going to reference The Room here, and I'm going to say it was the sounds.
Mm-hmm.
It was the sound design of the chocolate pretzels being pulled out of the bag, being eaten, and then fingers being licked, and
yeah, the extreme close up of the fingers being licked, and
it just made it worse.
It did. It
I think
really did.
I needed a palate cleanser, so I think I went back and watched The Fly with Jeff Goldblum after this, just to
there you go.
something that might make me throw up even less. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, first time watching this, I thought that was absolutely hilarious, but I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Something in the years since it's still funny, but in the years since, I'm like, oh, okay, maybe skip ahead 15, 20 seconds. Nope, extended cut still going. Okay, maybe 20 more seconds. And it's funny to see. There were several people here that I would see in a lot more things later on, but this was also kind of my first exposure to them. So this is the first time I remember seeing, from what I can recall, this is the first time I remember seeing Ben Affleck. This is the first time I remember seeing Michael Rooker in something. This is probably it's the first time seeing Jason Lee in something, and he'd go on to do a bunch of other things. I'm trying to think who else. I might have even seen Meet Joe Black before seeing this movie, so Claire Forlani then would end up seeing her in a couple of different things after that. But yeah, no, this one was kind of the starting point for a lot of these actors that would go on to do other bigger things after this.
Well, yeah, and if you didn't see Dazed and Confused before this, this would be your first exposure to a few people.
All right. And before we get into 3 questions, because I feel like 3 questions is going to take us in all kinds of directions, but do we have anything else? Anything else you want to say in general about the soundtrack? Is great too, as with all Kevin Smith movies. Got a good soundtrack going. Comic books, to see characters that love comic books and talk intelligently about them. That was kind of fun. To see Brody and TS try to talk through. Basically, I don't know if you guys have ever read this or not. There was an essay that was written in the late 60s by the science fiction writer Larry Niven, who did The Ringworld, called Man of Steel, Woman of Kleenex. I'm sure you can guess where that's going.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
But for Brody and TS to be having this conversation in the movie, I'm like, they have read that as well.
It seems that way, doesn't it?
But it's like those funny little quirky, nerdy conversations, like, the people on the Death Star were just trying to do their jobs. And then some farm kid comes along and blows them all up.
Right. What was that conversation? That was from
that was
Clerks.
Yeah.
That was Clerks. Yeah. Okay.
But that's like these. I like to refer to these as comic book store conversations, because I remember as a kid and a teenager going to the comic book store and just while I'm in there listening to these ridiculous hypothetical conversations going on.
Mm-hmm.
What if Batman got a Green Lantern ring? I don't know. What if the Joker got a Green Lantern ring? What if the Joker put on the mask from The Mask? Okay.
Yeah.
We saw a lot of those random conversations on The Big Bang Theory too.
Right. That's why I think that show played so well with nerds as well, because we got an opportunity to sit there and be like, oh yeah, I've had that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I resemble that remark. All right. Anything else before we approach the 3 suitors and ask them some questions? Gil will not be allowed to answer, so just so you know, we're not letting him answer any questions.
Okay.
That's best.
Because there's some stuff you don't talk about in public, Gil. All right.
Indeed.
All right. Well, we're going to send Richard Dawson back to the feud, but in the meantime, here's 3 questions.
He asks each traveler 5 questions. 3 questions. 3 questions.
It's impossible to answer.
Impossible because you don't know the answer.
Nobody could answer that question.
I want to ask you a bunch of questions. I want to have them answered immediately.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Suitor number 1, what sounds would you... No, okay. Question number 1. What would be your ideal first date?
So the discussion we had here was, is this our ideal first date now? Or is this our ideal first date back in 1995?
I would say now.
Okay.
My answer is definitely different now than it would have been.
100%.
Because back then it would have been go to a movie.
Right. But now you're thinking, well, go to a movie. I'm not going to learn anything about this person I'm on a first date with. So you're talking dinner and then something public and active, and, mini golf is still an option. Although being in our 40s, maybe it's top golf instead of mini golf.
There you go.
Still a game, still golf, but maybe less windmills.
Sure. Sure.
And more booze.
Sure. It's not to say you can't do those things at the mini golf place, but sure.
Well, some you can, but
Yes, I'm sure. It would be a lot of fun to see me boozing it up at the mini golf course, jumping on the windmill and screaming, "I'm on the Moulin Rouge!"
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Have some.
Yes. Singing off key. My gift is my song. And this one's for you. Oh, great. I've killed Bo.
Yeah, you oughta.
Hold on. My bowling ball is in the other room. Let me go get it a second.
You're funny man. Funny man. Funny man.
I'm sorry. We watched Moulin Rouge the other day, so that's why it's fresh in the mind. I think I'm probably in the same spot, age whatever. In 1995, it would have been like, go to the food court and then go to a movie, which makes me sound terrible because it makes me sound very Brody-like, and I don't think I probably would have been very Brody-like. And I did ask just to make sure. I was like, I'm pretty certain I know what our first date was, but I was like, I need to ask just to make sure because I don't want there to be like a misunderstanding on what was considered.
Better to ask the question and yeah.
So I was correct. Going to a Libertyville high school basketball game was our first date. So,
that's actually for high school. That wasn't bad.
Yeah. So I was not wrong. So I was very happy about that. Yeah, I think today it would be like you said, Bo. It would be you go out somewhere and then you would do something that allows you to continue to have conversation. Like you don't go to a movie to just sit and watch. Because if I'm going to a movie, I'm watching the movie. Like that's not a place to have conversation. So I don't know. It'd be something like we like to play a lot of games. So it'd be like if you were maybe even with a group of friends and you were able to play a game and it was one of those games where you get to know the people in the group a little bit better and something like that. So that would something along those lines. Nothing with dancing because I don't want to scare anybody off.
Right.
Like if I was single now and the option was, well, you could go dancing. Oh, no. Then basically, why are we doing this?
Right. What is your end goal with that dancing?
The end goal is to terrify the other person. I did not
know. Well, that's easy. I've done that all my life.
I didn't know one human being could be that uncoordinated. So, Pat, what would yours be?
Yeah, I think I don't know what it would be specifically.
Please don't say running. Please don't say running.
Oh, okay. You know what, John? I reject the question. Question number 2.
I've always treated these questions with the utmost respect and somehow at the same time complete disdain. I will not answer that stupid question.
I was running.
I think, honestly, I think the key, like you said, was just a place where the conversation can keep going.
Yeah.
I like to converse. You know what I'm saying? So that's probably going to be, a deal breaker right there for the poor person that would have to go on a date with me, where it was just like, oh my gosh, he's talking me down. Like I'm going to split. Right. And so we would want to make sure that just for that, whoever that unlucky individual would be, just so they could see, okay, this is what it's all about. Do you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So yeah, anywhere. And then I think at that point, it would be like, I'm not going to be like, hey, this is what we're going to do, unless they're like, hey, you planned it. I'd be like, hey, what do you like? Do you want to go for a hike? You want to go for a run? Do you want to go, is that like first date? Is that like, okay, out in the middle of the woods? Okay, that's a little creepy. You want to go to hang out at a place, talk? That's cool. Yeah, just wherever the convo can go.
Yeah. All right.
And it's usually, yeah. I'll just keep it at that because anything I say that's more specific, the location really doesn't matter as long as everybody is comfortable with it. Sure. The important thing is the conversation and the hanging outness. Like cycling back, all the stuff that in this movie, it was like the things that were being converted. That's what I would relate to. So.
And in your case, also somewhere where you can be standing up so you don't fall asleep.
Exactly.
Yeah. So.
And I've done that on some dates too. So that's part of the charm. Like you're not going to be able to go that far, and that's just kind of who Pat is. So
you need to this is what you're in for.
Yeah. It's hey, sometimes the battery powers down. We just need to take a couple minutes and just power it right back up.
There we go. All right, question number 2, and I'm going to direct this one at Suitor number 1, which would be Pat on my window here. What was your favorite store back in the mall back in the day?
Oh, honestly, probably like Rose Records.
Okay.
I love going to the record store, and you go and you find alphabetical. Where's your band? Clip through. Do you have the new album? What albums do I not have? It was all right there. I really like that place. The second one, when we were going to the mall, I would say, well, I don't know. I'd say Rose Records. I don't want to like steal other people's. So maybe I'll wait. Maybe I'll keep my honorable mentions and all that kind of stuff for later. But I think my number one, I love going to record stores.
I think, I don't know if I have a name for it because I always feel like they were different, but the comic book store, the game store, I'm looking at those type of things.
Yeah. Like the store that had the comics, the baseball cards, the
card and collectible stores. Those are good ones always. Bookstores too.
Oh yeah.
But I think those collectible type stores were always more fun. I probably went through a ball cap. I know I went through a ball cap phase, so I'd always pop in there to see if they'd come out with something new and cool.
Yeah.
There's a good chance we're all talking about going to the same mall too, right?
Yeah, I would think.
Yeah. By the time I was in high school, it would have been up here, so it would have been Hawthorne Mall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So my answer for this is I've got 2. I'll list the first one and then we'll see if we've got any other runners up. But I actually even tried to get a job at this store, but I think they might have been, very, very selective about who they wanted working there. But it was my favorite store to go into. Like it had everything. I would go in here, I would look at things and imagine with the money that I didn't have, wow, I wish I could get that. And I want one of those too. Maybe a couple of those. So mine was the Suncoast movie store.
I remember all that. Yeah.
Everything. I loved everything about that slightly overpriced store.
Slightly?
Yes. Well, yeah.
Come on.
For a high school kid,
be honest here.
For a high school kid, very overpriced.
Your discount would have wiped away the overpriced and you would have been paying normal retail price.
Sure. Yeah.
Let's just accept it.
So I did actually try to get a job there. I tried to get a job there one time. I think I tried to get a job at Sam Goody. I think I tried a couple of spots in the mall, but that was the one I really wanted. I was like, man, if I get a job at the movie store, sign me up.
Was Sam Goody the record store?
That was the record store, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what was I was thinking of Rose Records, but I think that was a standalone place in another part of town.
Oh, okay.
It was over by what is now Dick's Sporting Goods.
Oh.
Oh, okay.
At least that's where I remember it being.
I don't remember
because there was
store over there.
that was over like just the other side of 60, right?
Yeah.
Huh.
Okay, and then there was a movie theater right in there. No, I'm thinking of River Tree. River Tree was across the other road.
That was back.
Well, it was kind of around the corner. You couldn't. The two weren't connected, but.
No.
Oh, River Tree.
Okay.
Yeah. River Tree was across the street. Sorry, I was thinking about Showplace. God.
But I think Showplace came after River Tree.
It did.
Yeah.
It did. River Tree was the original, and then.
Yeah, because I remember when
Showplace 8.
Yep.
That's right. Because I remember when River Tree was the Cat's Patut, and then all of a sudden it came out with Showplace, and then we went back to River Tree, and it was like, ooh, this is.
Best part about River Tree Court. Until the day it closed, it had too small of a popcorn hopper.
Really?
So they had to keep making fresh popcorn.
Oh.
So you always got fresher popcorn there because they couldn't store it. They didn't have a big enough hopper to do it. It was always churning. Best part about the place.
I dropped a lot of money when Showplace came out, and I was like, wait a minute. I can see movies.
Second run movies for $6 or $4, probably when it opened.
Oh, no. When it opened, $1.50.
Oh, see, this is what
I remember those days.
This is how I got to see Star Wars Episode 1 45 times in the theater.
Right. I only saw it with you like 2 or 3 times.
Probably,
you took it to a level that I could not sustain.
I basically like built my nest somewhere in one of those theaters and just like sat and hovered some weird Quasimodo in the corner, and this is my sanctuary.
The guy's cleaning the theater, calling you by name. Hey, John, you staying for another one? Yeah.
I'm like Homer Simpson. I'm like, don't touch my seat. I've got my butt groove right here.
Right.
Don't mess with that. Yeah.
Anyone checked on John? Make sure he's still breathing.
Anybody know where John is? Have you tried Showplace 8? Oh,
refill his Coke.
Should have gone there first.
Refill his Coke and his popcorn. He'll be fine.
Yeah. Just prop him up a little bit. He'll be okay.
Exactly.
I don't remember there being another record store over there. That's really weird.
Yeah. And you know what?
Rose Records for sure.
Why do I not remember that? That is odd.
And I might be seeing now.
I'm wondering if it was gone before you got here.
Let's see. I got here in 94, 95.
It's possible.
I went to the Rose Records over by me, over in Buffalo Grove. So I wonder how much I went to Sam Goody in the mall to get albums. Like I maybe just stopped in there. But
and a lot of times Dog Ear over in Libertyville was closer to me, so that's where I went.
Yeah, see, so far the newest record of the Vernon Hills Rose Records I can find is late 80s, early 90s, so it is possible.
Might have been gone. All right.
That which would be why you don't remember it.
Yeah.
Well, then I'm gonna throw my runner up in there and you guys already mentioned bookstore. I remember when they put in a Barnes and Noble right on the corner of the mall.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I'm gonna be honest, like that place was my jam. I know there's that Tom Hanks movie where he's that guy, and then there's who is it? Was it Meg Ryan? Who was the other one that had this?
That's wasn't it You've Got Mail, where they both own bookstores?
Yep.
They both own bookstores and all that kind of stuff. And but I just loved Borders because you could go and like just, oh my God, I think of the amount of money that like went down to them. And it was just like, there was just so much. And like, I would come out with a stack of, pick a topic in history, and I would have a stack of 8 books. Okay, these are all going on the reading list. And then they had a great selection of music as well. And then also right when I was getting into high school and all that kind of stuff, I was trying to buy as many jazz albums as I could. I wanted to buy, and you'd go there and it was just like, you know what I'm saying? So I just remember anytime I had disposable income, it would be spent at Borders, and I would just go and just look through the records, and it was.
Well, you could go down to Deerfield, closer to you, Pat, it sounds like. And you had the Barnes and Nobles and the Border across from each other.
So, yeah.
And you could just spend a whole day.
Oh, man. And that was like 5 minutes from my grandparents' house.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying?
Okay. Yeah.
So it was just like, yeah, those places. And man, up in college, up in Eau Claire, like it'd be like, so-and-so just released a new album. And it would be like bam, we'd go to the Borders. Or Blue Note just released a bunch of reissued Miles Davis recordings, right? Kenny Dorham, Best of Kenny Dorham, just hit the such and such record label, and you go pick it up. And it was, oh my gosh, those places. That was like, when I die and go to heaven, I just feel like that's what heaven is going to look like.
Well, you've
corner of
just
heaven.
described saying that there was a Barnes and Noble right across from a Borders, and that you could like walk out from one and go into the other one. You've just described the Nexus from Star Trek Generations. And if you even think about taking a right turn and heading to your car in the parking lot, it's like, Father, are you coming back for Christmas dinner?
Yeah.
Yeah. My geography's bad. It was either Waukegan Road and Lake Cook or Waukegan Road and Deerfield Road.
They were, because
it was. I know it was. I'm sorry, John. We're in a temporal loop. I keep interrupting you because of the Zoom lag. Go ahead. What were you saying?
No, I said it was Waukegan Road and Lake Cook Road.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember it was off Lake Cook because, like I said, going right down Lake Cook, and that was the way. That was the way right to where my grandparents lived in right off the main drag in Deerfield there. But no, that place was awesome. And it's like, okay, well, now. And again, people give me a hard time because I don't buy into any streaming service for music. I want to buy the physical media and then put it on my newest incarnation of an iPod, right? Like I just put it on my computer, put it on my phone. Like I just, so, yeah. And I guess it was kind of like, almost like, and that's the other thing about Borders is it was almost like a library in that you could just go and walk and get lost in all the books and the music, and then
had listening stations, so you could like make sure the CD was the one you were looking for.
Right, and then the one up in Eau Claire get live music too. And remember they had the little snack bar and the coffee shop and the whole thing. Not that I've ever drank coffee before in my entire life, but I like snacks.
See, growing up in Texas, we had. So you talk about the listening stations at a music store. The first time I ever experienced that was at a mall in a Blockbuster Music.
Ooh.
And that was the first place I ever remember having listening stations where you could actually listen to the stuff before you bought it. I was like, this is revolutionary.
A Blockbuster Music, you say?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
They opened up a brand. It was in Plano, Texas, and they opened up this. It was Blockbuster, same signage, same everything, but it was Blockbuster Music. And so the idea was it was a giant music store, and you could. I think the idea of the listening station, which is, if you watch Empire Records or some of the other stuff, there are listening stations in old music stores too.
Right.
But their idea was, well, you could kind of, just like Blockbuster, you could kind of rent before you own and listen to the CD a little bit before you buy something. But yeah, I vividly remember when that came out, that kind of blew my mind because I don't remember growing up, there weren't like little privately owned or family owned music stores that I remember going to. So when something like that hit town, I was like, I have never seen anything like this before. This is amazing.
It is. And you're right. It's the Nexus. I'm like describing this and thinking like, yeah. I remember that spot exactly. And see, up in Eau Claire, we had Borders, right? And we go to Borders but then there was this place in downtown Eau Claire called the Book Peddler. And the Book Peddler had, I think it was all used and pre-owned and all that.
Sure.
But it was all records and used books. And I mean like LP records, like needle, like analog sound. And yes, I'm not, I don't have good enough ears to be able to tell you exactly why. But when I hang out with my friends that were the audiophiles, they could tell you why records sounded better. And it wasn't just nostalgia for snap, crackle, and pop hissing records. Like they could tell you why the sound of a record was better.
Well, it wasn't compressed.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
Dog Ear did some pre-owned stuff for a while, didn't they?
They did, yeah. Yeah. I got a lot of my stuff there. Swinging back to the mall, I don't know if you guys spent.
That's right. That's what we were talking about.
Mallrats.
Sorry, everybody. Sorry.
That's why he's the host, folks, and we're just here.
I'm grabbing the shepherd's hook and just bringing everybody back. No, my runner-up place was going, and I don't know if you guys spent as much time here as I did. I spent a lot of quarters in Aladdin's Castle.
Aladdin's
Castle. Yeah. There it is.
Yeah, a lot of time was spent in Aladdin's Castle. And whether it was, and so then anytime we'd go to any mall, like I remember going to visit my grandparents and going to, Springfield, Missouri, going to their mall. Anytime I'd go into a mall, I would seek out a couple different things. I would seek out, do they have a bookstore? Do they have a comic book store? Do they have a music store? And do they have an Aladdin's Castle? And that's, if you have one of those four things, that's really all I need to know.
Yeah.
Well,
I think
Aladdin's Castle was kind of amazing.
Yeah. I think that's
Speaking
where I
of,
first
by the way,
saw...
I know we goof about podcast field trips and stuff, but I do think a podcast field trip to Super Just Games might be in order.
Yes.
I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah.
I'm getting in my car right now.
I have had the opportunity to drive by it several times in the last month. And every time I drive by, I'm like, but I don't have an hour or 6 to kill.
We used to take the kids there a lot, and then I don't know, there was this thing called COVID that maybe stopped us from going to an arcade for a while.
Sure.
And so we might have been back there once or twice since then, but
it's been far too long for me.
There's probably a coffee can full of nickels I could bring with us.
I think you might need some dimes now.
Have they updated dimes?
I feel like the new sign says 5 and dime on it or something, but
but it's called Nickel City. You can't do that. It's not dime.
No,
City.
that's right. Yeah, it's got to still be nickels. You're right.
Okay. You blinded me with inflation there for a second.
Well,
it just might take 2 nickels where before it one. one.
That's fair.
And then that's why you go back to the free play games in the back.
At least they're still printing the nickel.
That's true. And then that's why John spends hours sitting at the Miss Pac-Man free play game in the back of the store.
Well, that's exactly it. Like I could spend my whole afternoon back there and you'd never see me know I was existed. I'd come up for water, maybe.
Yeah.
I think Aladdin's Castle was the first place I saw Mortal Kombat. The original Mortal Kombat. And you walked up and you just see like, holy moly, that looks like real. That looks like real. And then you find out real dudes, like they, did all the motion. It's just like, oh, this is amazing.
Okay, so does anyone know what was first, Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter?
Street Fighter was first.
It was?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what it was in my head too, but...
Yeah, because Mortal Kombat I don't remember exactly what year, but it was early 90s, I feel like. And I believe that the Walmart we used to go to in Texas, in McKinney, Texas, when I was little, and that would have still been very early, 1990 maybe, 1991 possibly, before we moved to England, and maybe even late 80s, was they had Street Fighter, not Street Fighter 2, they had Street Fighter as
no bloody A.
No bloody A, B, C, Turbo.
None of that.
Competition edition, no versus Capcom. Yeah, none of that. But they had Street Fighter 1, and that was the arcade game because the Walmart in our town had like 2 arcade machines out front. And I dropped so many quarters on those games, and I vividly remember that. So Street Fighter, I believe, that probably was either very late 80s or very, very early 90s because we still were living in Texas at that point.
Gotcha.
All right, question number 3. If you were a comic book character, which one would you be? Either Suitor can answer first. It's okay.
Wolverine, done.
I figured that was the answer.
I've always been a Batman fan. I think this has come up before. I don't know if it was in a comic book or a superhero context, but something about being the brilliant rich guy works for me. And I just want all the toys. When they said that line, I was like, that's so good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So good.
Pat, can I offer a punch up on your answer here?
You can offer a punch up.
I feel like when you answered that question, I should have responded with, should I call you Logan, Weapon X? And then you respond with, no, Wolverine, schnickety, schnickety, schnoin. and then I have to explain, see, what he's doing here is he's imitating Wolverine's berserker attack with his adamantium claws.
Snoochy boochies.
Yeah, that was a pretty good bit of business, I won't lie.
My answer also very, very easy, and not because of the conversation in this movie. My answer is Superman or any superhero that can fly. I want to be able to fly, so I don't really care. It could be Green Lantern, it could be any of the flying superheroes, but I feel like Superman has all of the different abilities that one would possibly want if you were a superhero. So that's the answer I got to go with.
I feel like you put question 3 in strategically so the pod wouldn't get too late. That was like your anchor question because you knew that everyone would be able to answer that within like 2 seconds.
Sometimes these are strategically put in there. So,
well, that's an easy one because that's one we've all thought of before.
Yeah,
and
several times.
within my own head, I've argued through like my ranking system, and I have spreadsheet upon spreadsheet of why, and yes.
Also true.
That's going to do it for Mallrats, another really, really fun Kevin Smith movie. So the next time around when we do a Kevin Smith movie, it'll be Chasing Amy. At that point will be the next one. And then Dogma will come just a few years after that. So it'll be another couple years before we talk. We had one right after the other because we did Clerks last year and then Mallrats, so we got to wait a little bit. Then we've got Chasing Amy and then Dogma, so that'll be fun because I was also a huge fan of Dogma when that came out. I remember going to see that in the theater and just really, really having a lot of fun with that one. But that's going to do it for Mallrats. So if you were a Mallrat, we'd love to hear, like, what were your favorite things to do in the mall? What did you love about this movie? So you can reach out to us. We are at 30 Podcast on all the different social media spots. We are still, I'm not as active as much on Twitter, Facebook, some of those, but I've been doing a little bit more on Threads and Blue Sky. We are working on having a newsletter that's going to be coming out pretty soon and some exciting things that may come along with that as well that I'm not going to reveal just yet. But I got some things in the works, so that'll be something that we're working on. But in all the different social media spots, we are out and about there, so feel free to reach out on those. We'd love to hear from you. We've also got a spot on our website. If you go to 30podcast.com, there's a little button where you can leave us a voicemail. So if you want to leave a voicemail, you can let us know in the message whether you want this played on the show or not, but we'd love to hear from you. So if you have stuff related to Mallrats or any of the other movies we're doing this month that you would like to talk about with us, feel free to leave us a message. We'd love to hear from you. As I said, this is our Teenagers Month, so our Patreon episodes, Real Genius from 1985 is our Patreon episode for this month. Our Patreon short is Angus from 1995. And just to let people know, we've had a lot more people kind of come on with us over on Patreon. Patreon has the ability for you to either join and donate to the show, so financially support the show, which thank you so much for all the people that do that, because that is really, really helpful for us. We do this because we love it. We're not really making any money off of this at all, so we're doing it because we love it, but it does have some costs associated, so that really helps us out. So thank you very, very much for that. But you can also follow a show or a creator on Patreon. And those Patreon shorts, those little 10 to 12-minute episodes that I put out once a month, those are free and open to anybody. So if you want to get a little taste, you get a little taste with the Patreon shorts. And then once we've got you hooked, then you can join us for the regular Patreon episodes, which is open to those that are Patreon patrons there. So anyway, that's over on the Patreon side of things. Regular episodes this month. This week was Mallrats to start us off. Next week, as if, is going to be Clueless. And then middle of the month, we've got our 10th anniversary rewatch is Back to the Future from 1985. And then we come back and we've got Dangerous Minds. And we end the month with, we're trying to save the Empire, basically, by the end of the month. We've got Empire Records. That's another fun one. I actually watched that one with my daughter the other day. Got a chance to introduce her to that one. And introduce her to Rex Manning Day so that she fully understands why on April 8th her dad is weird. I know what you're going to say, Bo. I know what you're going to say. Go ahead.
Nope.
Go ahead.
On April 8th, you're weird?
I understood. I understand.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure. I feel like we're not presenting to our constituents the truth if we're not at least.
Yes. April 8th and every other day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What was I going to answer? One of our 3 questions was, what's your ideal date? And had I really answered the way I wanted to, I would have answered with the answer from Miss Congeniality, and I would have said, I'd have to say it's April 25th because it's not too hot, it's not too cold. All you need is a light jacket. That's my ideal date.
There you go.
On that note, everybody, we'll be back here next week with Clueless. So go to the mall, maybe get yourself a new outfit, and meet us back here next week for that. And you guys, Bo, Pat, feel free to go shopping too if you want.
Okay.
Just might do that, John.
Everybody, we'll see you back here next time.
Bring the lights down low, it's time to show. Lights, camera, you know what we mean. Behold the magic of the silver screen. Some movies rock, some movies shock, they're powerful, alright. We cover them all on your favorite part. So many movies we can choose, even when you win, you lose. Life moves pretty fast, some will fizzle and some movies last. I understood there would be no math, it's the 30-something movie podcast. Be excellent to each other, peace out and word to your mother. They're from the best decades, movie magic that never fades. Lightsabers clash, phasers set to stun. Action packed from dusk till dawn. We have deep thoughts and questions three. Come share our love of the movies we see. Life moves pretty fast, some will fizzle and some movies last. I understood there would be no math, it's the 30-something movie podcast.
Snoochie Boochies.
Snooshy boochies.